One of the number one things you need as a business or creator is visibility. If your audience can't see or hear what you do, it almost doesn't exist. That's why DiffWorks is your one-stop shop for all of your multimedia needs. I'm talking video, audio, photography, graphic design, headshots, websites. They do it all. So if you're looking for multimedia that'll give you a competitive edge, check out DiffWorks and book a consultation at staydiff.com. Hey, this is Kahja Elliott, Bronx born and raised, ATL made, Bay Area becoming, and this is the As Told By podcast. We're back with a new episode of the As Told By podcast. I'm not on location this week. I'm here in Oakland, West Oakland to be more specific, and I am talking to Craig Murli. And if you don't know who Craig is, well, many of you do, but for those of you who may not, you're going to learn. Craig is the chef and owner of one of Oakland's most storied pop-ups of the last few years, June's Pizza. So, Craig, welcome to the As Told By podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm honored to be here.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to have you. Just a bit about kind of where and how I found out about June's. Of course, it was post-pandemic.
Yeah.
But not too post. I think it was like 2021. So you could go outside a little bit.
All right, I'm going to dial it back 1 second. First, let me pour you a glass of wine.
Oh, thank you. We got wine, y'all.
Yeah.
We got wine.
This is a Sauvignon Blanc. It's made by our friends Sean and Diego up in Richmond.
Okay.
This is one of two wines that we're going to serve. So try it out.
Let me try it out.
Inexpensive, good, natural pizza wine. Yeah. And cheers before.
Cheers,
yeah.
yes. Cheers to reopening. You are so welcome. Okay, so before I sip, let me just set the scene for you all. I'm sitting in the new location of June's Pizza on Mandela Parkway. It is the eve of opening, so they're going to be opening tomorrow. So it's quiet in here, but this is definitely the quiet before the storm. People are already trying to come by the door and get the skinny on this weekend. So I'm so glad that I got to drop in here before it all goes up to have a conversation about what is a business people are really happy to see back. So welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah. So to back up to your question, we were talking about the first June's Pizza. It was right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
It was March 2020 is when we opened. I remember I was working as a private chef and building out June's Pizza, and I was like halfway done building it basically.
Yeah.
And my private chef work just dried up the moment that shelter-in-place order happened. And I'm looking around like, okay, I don't have a job anymore. And we opened with the resources we had. I'm like, all right, we can make pizza and then just deliver boxes to people, like put them on the street. People would come pick them up.
Yeah.
And we just started that way, and it just took off as it were. And without going too much into all the details of that year and a half that we operated, I learned a ton. We made a lot of mistakes. I learned how to operate a pizza joint, which is good. That's something. I was like, even if this fails, no one can ever take that away from me. You know, I have the skills to run a pizzeria, I run a restaurant, and so I have that. So kind of, I felt pretty empowered from that. You know, kind of like at the end of Straight Outta Compton, if you saw that movie, when Suge Knight was like going to Dr. Dre, he's like, "You're fired, and I get all the rights to your music." And Dr. Dre was like, "Fine, but you can't have what's in here,
my IP,
because that's that's the value." You know, so I always felt that way after. Not that I'm comparing myself to the.
This is aftermath. This is aftermath.
Yeah. But it's like you can't I learned so much, you know, and I felt so empowered by the support I got, and so empowered that it juiced me up for the next 3 years. Even in the darkest times, I knew I was going to reopen June's, and that was the pathway to a happy future for me.
Yeah.
So all the support I got, it just meant so much, and it gave me the juice push this thing into fruition.
Get back out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I found June's back when you all were in Magnolia Mart. And it was, I had just kind of seen it floating around social media. And, you know, for people who experienced June's back when they were open the first time around, you know, it was kind of like, remember when you used to have to call into the radio station to win the prize or like to get your song played? Like you would, it was a call-in order system, and the lines would open at a certain time. And if you didn't get in, you just were not getting pizza unless you pulled up and got slices.
Yeah.
Because the slices were walk up only. And that's how I found out about you all. As a Bronx native, I think I had just given up getting a certain type of pizza in California. And I was just like, I'm just going to ride the wave of artisan pizza. It's good, but it was different, right? And so I loved the slice format. I loved that it was just very simply done with really quality ingredients. And that it was in this kind of wonky, odd space. It wasn't a restaurant, really.
Yeah.
And
it was an odd space.
It was an odd space, but what was not odd was what was coming out of the pizza oven. So, you know, people thinking, and the sign also was, I always used to refer to it like the bat sign. It was like up in the air, how you would custom to seeing the bat signal. I'm like, it's June's Pizza. There is an actual June, though, that inspired the name, which is your mom.
Yeah.
You know, I found a lot of information online in my research about June's Pizza, but not much about you.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about where you're from and how you came into a culinary career.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I'd like to talk about my mom, too, because she's... To know me is to know about my mom. And so we'll get to that. But, yeah, as far as cooking... I was like 14 looking around, like dead set on never working in a cubicle. Like I had this vision of corporate America, and I was like, I never want to be part of that. And I also I don't do well in school. I was failing, and I just don't belong in a classroom. So I always felt like my options were limited, even though they probably weren't, but I always felt like the rest of the world is not for me. So at 14, I was like, I'm going to be a chef. That's how I'm going to sideswipe all this ladder that I'm being told I have to climb. So I never took my SATs. I just knew that, like, I'm going to culinary school. I don't have to do any of that. I don't even have to pass high school. I did pass high school, but I always felt like the rules didn't apply to me because I just knew I was going to be a chef, and I stayed on that path and worked hard at it. You know, so worked in the best restaurants I knew how to, and made my way out to California about 12 years ago, just to find the good restaurants. You know, get out of the East Coast, and yeah, and the whole time I was working in kitchens, working for chefs, always with the goal of opening up my own place. It really solidified in my mind when I was like 24 years old. I burnt the crap out of my hand working this one kitchen. Pulled a cast iron with a piece of chicken in it out, and the oil splashed back, and I just watched my skin bubble up, and this huge blister formed almost immediately. And I was so angry. I was so angry that I was doing this for someone else. Not only working for minimum wage to make someone else a living wage, but now I'm physically sacrificing my body for it too. And I'm like, it doesn't compute to me. I have to be on the path to open up my own thing. And when I do what I can to empower the folks working for me to not feel as jaded and beat up as I did at the time. So I'm doing my best to do that. But yeah, entrepreneurship is always the goal. Being a chef is always the goal. Yeah.
This is a hard business.
It's hard.
I've come to learn that as a person who really has loved restaurants all my life as a diner. But I would say probably in the last 4 to 5 years, I have gotten a better understanding of just how rigorous and difficult restaurant work is.
Wow.
I always say, I made a joke back in the episode we were talking about earlier with Matt Horn that, you know, chefs are the new rapper, right? But there's a lot that goes behind that, and that's not everybody's station. Some people are like sweating it out on the line and the burns and cuts and all those things. So I have a lot of respect for the profession.
Yeah. We're trying to humanize it a little bit here, because I don't think it should be, I don't believe it has to be such a grind. You know, and we're trying to design systems here that allow anyone to come in and succeed. You know, certain folks, certain positions here, if you're working the pizza ovens, that's a high skilled position, highly paid position. That person needs to have some moves and know how to work in the kitchen. But if you're stretching or topping pizzas or prepping or washing dishes, you know, you can be an entry level worker and succeed. And I'm not going to yell at you the whole time. You know, if I don't want to have flour on the ground, it's not on me to yell at you every minute of the day to stop getting flour on the ground. No, it's on me to install a little lip on the edge of the table so you can't get flour on the ground.
I see.
You know, it's like we can.
We're good. We're in a live restaurant now.
Yeah. We can build a business that everyone can succeed in, you know, and it's not up to me to scream and yell to make success happen. It's up to us to build systems that people can work within and feel comfortable in and do a good job here.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you certainly learned from, you know, some of, like you said, the more well-known high-end restaurants here, kitchens here in the Bay Area. I know you formerly worked at Atelier Crin and also as a private chef. So how did that translate to June's? And how did you approach paring down your fine dining skills to pizza? Or was it a paring down? And why pizza?
Yeah. You know, the best things I learned in fine dining were how to clean and how to really, really give a shit and focus on the minutia. That bled over into every part of my life, I think. Like, it's the way I live is pretty tidy. You know, I value staying clean. I value living with like a dignity that's there. And I found that in fine dining. People are going to work with so much dignity. They care so much about working. It's not just about the end result that what goes on the plate. It's how you got there. And I believe that in fine dining, they really pushed, you get there in the most dignified way possible. You know, the term is soigné, and we love saying it. Like, soigné means achieving maximum productivity and or efficiency through like creating aesthetic beauty around you. That's my definition of it.
Okay.
So that would be like, here's my workstation in front of me. I got a lighter, I got some rolling papers, ashtray, glass of wine, right? Instead of, and that could be like a knife or a towel or cutting board. Instead of just having it laid out, however, it's like, no, line it up. Look at, and now I have this order in front of me. Now my mind's a little clearer.
Okay.
And that expand that out to everything you do all day long. And that's how we want to move. That's how I want to move through the world. And that June's Pizza, even though we're quote unquote just making pizza, we can still apply this soigné-ness to what we're doing here. You know, and if you're a high school kid, it's your first job, you know, we're here to teach you how to be soigné. There's no reason you can't be. Yeah. You know, and I think it will ultimately lead to more money, right? A more productive business, just more kicking butt in here. And that's what we're here to do. So
absolutely. I mean, systems are so important, you know, to all businesses, but definitely entrepreneurship. If you don't have systems, it's just kind of, you know, things happening in the wild, if you will.
Can I take these off?
Yeah, you can take them off as long as you still hear me. We're good.
Yeah, you sound great.
Yep. I think. Well, let me take a step back before I ask you that. So 2020, you were working as a private chef. Of course, COVID hits. You suddenly lose that with the onset of the pandemic. So it does seem to me that this was really like a watershed moment for you. Looking back, do you think you were operating in kind of like, you know, I call it get it how you live. Like, were you operating in that mode, or was there some intentionality to how you approached the opening of the first go round of June's?
Frame it in a different way. What was that term you used? Get how you live?
Get it how you live. Just
explain
like,
that.
you know, it's like whatever. It's whatever. Like, there's not a bunch of planning around it. There's not a bunch of formality around it. It's just A happened, and now we're about to do B and C to keep our head above water.
Yeah. It's like two things. We had to just open, and I just had the resources I had, and we opened like that. But with whatever is given to me in life, I squeeze it through the framework of soigné-ness, right? Like, and that part is but being soigné, right? And so like, if I got to open up a pizzeria in a shipping container, I'm going to do it with all the knowledge I have about how I like to work. So, okay, I'm in a shipping container, but we can keep our floors clean as hell. I know how I want to organize things. I know what I want our pizza to look like. I know how I want people to work. I know how much I want to charge. I know how I want to interact with guests, or at least I learned that eventually. But so yeah, all kinds of variables in life are always coming at us, but there's this like inner path that's always there that guides us on how to act through that. You know, so I'm proud of what we did, because even though it was kind of a shit show, COVID, weird surroundings, I'm really proud of like the people I had working with me and the work we did, and we kept an order there that I stand by, and now we have this big beautiful surroundings, and nothing's different. We're going to keep the same order here. You know, people who worked there, it's going to be the same program here, just we have more resources now. You know,
the space really is beautiful. It's so, of course, so different from what was previous, but I walked in here and I immediately felt just really happy for you, because I'm like, this is like a whole thing.
Hell yeah, thank you.
Yes, as a person who was kind of sitting outside and, you know, at Magnolia Mart, and there would be like little garden boxes with basil and various herbs, and the little mart. Shout out to Audrey over at Bati and Baker, because that's where I found out about that amazing Vietnamese coffee cake that I love so much. Was at that little mart that was right next door. So it just was a place to come sit outside and peruse a couple of, you know, stands where you could buy things, and y'all were one of the stands. So really happy to see this for you. One of the things I think was unusual was the amount of buzz June's Pizza garnered with, as you have said, very little marketing, right? Which to me is a critical premise of entrepreneurship, where sometimes people get caught up. Like they're doing merch and they got websites and they're doing social media, and they haven't really engaged with the public yet in a selling environment to really understand the efficacy of the product. Right. So you're doing all this preparation, and, you know, as one of my mentors say, go sell something, right, before you get into the weeds of all these things. Was that always the intention, to do this with little marketing, or did June's Pizza just take off before you could even get to that?
Yeah. I want to start by saying everything is marketing. Like, so we didn't invest in boosted social media posts or billboards or anything, but everything you do in the public eye, to me, is marketing. And I have deep conversations with my girlfriend about this. She's a marketer and ultra talented, and such a sharp mind. So we get into it. We get baked and get in the hot tub and just talk marketing all day long. It's awesome. But what I think about June's is I have this like anti-marketing approach, for lack of a better word. So it's, we're intentionally not shoving it in your face, because I want the people, I want to speak to the people who want to come to me. You know, I think it'd be a waste of energy to boost a social media post, put it in front of people who don't even care, you know, and then, or raise a cynical eyebrow to me. Maybe even come in ready to complain. You know, it's like, no, it's like, I want people who had to work to find me, came in here excited to be here, left happy, and then became walking billboards after that, telling their friends. I think nothing's more powerful than that word of mouth engagement. I think we did a good job of that. Like, it was just neighbors telling neighbors, telling neighbors. And then people came in here like already happy. And that's what I'm looking for. So let me fill you up.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm out of wine, y'all. This season of the podcast has been good. People have cooked for me in their homes. They've brought me food, and now we have wine. Courtney Fudge out in Atlanta Craig. This has become a traveling podcast this season. So I've been in LA, in Atlanta, in DC, and people have let me interview them in their homes. And, you know, Courtney was one of the folks who cooked a whole meal for me.
That's so cool to hear.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yes. Look, I'm on the road, Craig. Yes. People who are familiar with your story know that you kind of reversed order, right? You purchased or leased a space, opened up, and you're like, yeah, I'll get to the county process when I get to it, right?
Yeah.
And eventually that was the thing that ended up ending the first iteration of June's pizza is that, well, the county got onto it, right? And put a stop to, hey, we want you to go through this process. But we all know, or at least we've heard, that it can be notoriously difficult and time consuming working with the county on the necessary logistics to operate a food business. So did you go in and decide we're just going to ride it till the wheels fall off and let the chips fall where they may? I feel like that was the energy, but I don't want to assume.
That those exact words were said.
Oh.
Yeah, we literally were like, let's ride this till the wheels fall off. We knew it was coming because we opened, then it caught some momentum. I didn't have time to backtrack and do it the correct way. And later to find out that there's no possible way that space could have been permitted correctly. That learning what I learned building this space out, the current space legitimately, like impossible.
Yeah.
The hoops you have to jump through to make a habitable, permittable space is, it requires hundreds of thousands of dollars and sewer systems and grease traps and ADA compliance and seismic retrofits and
the terminology.
The list goes on, and there's that space just was impossible. We wouldn't have passed building inspection. We wouldn't have passed health inspection ever. So I knew I just had to walk away from it and start fresh.
Yeah. It's, there's something to, we're going to set up a space, irrespective of what kind of space it is, but we're going to set up a space and we're going to see. Like, to me, it's the ultimate market test of understanding, do you have a viable product?
Yeah.
Right? Is we're going to set up a space, throw up a sign. You all are notorious for the handwritten sign. I saw it in here, so I'm so glad y'all kept it. Right? But like, throw up a handwritten sign and open the phone lines and let's see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no substitute for just doing something. Like, just do. And like Nike, just do it.
Yeah.
And there's 100 reasons why we shouldn't have opened that first time. And ultimately it is why we got shut down, but we got a year and a half of experience. Like I talked about earlier. And that was, the juice was totally worth the squeeze on that. And then it built a following and a brand. And then from that, I was able to find investors to fund this new space, so if I got tripped up on why I shouldn't have done something, none of that would have happened. If your eyes are like, don't focus on the finish line, just focus on the steps in front of you and then take that step.
Yeah.
That's the important part. And it's hard, but just, yeah.
You did it though. Y'all did it.
Trying. Yeah. We're close. Opening day's tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm like, we just had this meeting before you got here. Like, all right, like we are behind and tomorrow's going to be a big day and don't let anything raise your blood pressure. Just like what happens, and we're going to try our hardest. And that's it.
Pivot. Pivot. Okay, so we talked a lot about the business components, but let's talk a little bit about the actual food. One of my favorite local publications, Edible East Bay, just recently talked about the term terroir.
Yeah.
And how it doesn't just apply to wine, but also to things like cheese. And I could even kind of see it applying to something like pizza because there's so much regional nuance to how pizza is prepared. Is there something in your approach to pizza making that you think makes June's particularly reflective of the Bay?
Yeah. Yeah, we always say like June's... the influence for the pizza, it's a triangle of Italy, the East Coast where I came from, and the Bay Area. So Italy is, we want to have really simple ingredients treated beautifully. So no more than like 3 things on a pizza. That's what we're shooting for now. I think it's a very Italian thing, like because such beautiful things grow there. So all you have to do is just not mess them up. East Coast, there's kind of an FU vibe to where I'm from, and like in Connecticut, and this where New Haven pizza, New York pizza comes from. It's we want this rustic, charred kind of look that was cooked in a wood oven. You know, and I think, and big pizzas too, not small Neapolitan ones, but we like the big pizzas. They're kind of a big, hefty slice from. That's kind of that's the East Coast influence. And then the Bay, to your question, what we have here is this amazing wealth of local agriculture that we're trying to support every step of the way. So the point of the simple menu is we have our margarita, that's kind of our homage to what we think a margarita pizza should be, and then the special. And the special just reflects what we're getting from the farmer's market that week. And with the goal being, one, the ingredients are just better, so we think it makes a tastier pizza. And two, we want to support this local agriculture and this economy here. So in the first go around with June's, the stack of boxes I would get from Riverdog Farm or Full Belly was up to my hip. And I would take that to June's a couple times a week. I think going forward, it's going to be above my head. And then eventually it's going to be twice that. And eventually I'll need to rent a box truck to go pick up from the farm. And eventually we're going to be communicating with these folks like, listen, can you just grow an entire section of your farm with just kale? Because we're going to run a kale special and our demand is this, and we're going to run it for that long. I would love to be able to push in that direction and just make things sweeter for the farmers that we work with, and in turn make things sweeter for June's.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a Bay Area thing that's unique to here. And I hope people are aware of that. Like, our farmers markets are a special thing. If you don't support them, they'll go away.
Yeah.
You know?
We are so lucky and spoiled here in the Bay with the access that we have. This was new to me, and I was just at something last night, and someone asked me, shout out to the town experience. They asked me, what is your favorite town experience? And it's the farmers markets. Oh, yeah. That was the answer I gave. Because like any day, really, with the exception of Monday, unless you go to Kaiser has a farmers market on Monday. But Tuesday through Sunday, you can pull up to a farmer's market somewhere in the East Bay and like get top of the line stuff.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I love it.
So yeah, just trying to showcase that is in the business model, you know, and then, last thing, we throw the tiniest touch of whole wheat into our flour. And I believe that's a little Bay Area thing. You know,
it is.
We're a little crunchy here. It's sourdough. The bread here is phenomenal, and we want to just we can't just go make a basic white flour yeast dough. It's like, no, we live in the Bay Area. We got these incredible bread bakeries here. We can't just, we got to
zhuzh it up a little bit.
Say something about that, you know. So
yeah. Well, you know, by the time this airs, you will have reopened. But as we sit here tonight, you know, much to the collective exultation of folks in the Bay, you are on the precipice of reopening. This is going to be a busy weekend for you. Tell us about what the new format will be and what people can expect.
Yeah. It'll be really similar to what we did. 2 pizzas, the special, the margherita and the special. We're just going to add things to that. So it's going to start just as I said. Ultimately, I'd like to have a pepperoni add-on to the margherita. We're serving drinks this time. So we have our one house red wine, our one house white wine made by our friends up in Richmond. We're serving that in a blank bottle. We're trying to sell really it for as little money as you possibly can. I just went to my friend Sean. I'm like, listen, man, my dad grew up in Italy. They would make wine seasonally, just throw grapes in a big carafe and let them ferment. And there would just be a bottle on the table, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And no one cared what it was. It was just the wine. It was red wine. And it's this beautiful table wine. So I wanted to kind of have a nod to that experience. So, and I want to sell the bottle for under $40. So he's making these wines for us. And we're trying to deliver the highest quality thing we can and still be affordable. So I think that eliminating front of the house staff, being a fast casual restaurant, having a very, very stripped down menu where we can really dial in our inventory, no waste, allows us to keep our prices as low as we can.
Yeah.
Some people still balk at it, but believe me, we're trying. So, you know,
and I think, you know, this has come up with some other popular restaurants in the Bay with people balking at the price. And then, like, we're in the Bay. Like, we know what rents are. We know what the cost of living is. When I see a business that has a product that's priced on the higher end, I almost always, my inclination is to think this is probably a business that is paying their employees something that is an actual livable wage.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you. So our entry level positions, we pay $18.75 an hour plus tips. To work the pizza oven, it's $25 an hour plus tips. And then manager salaries, and then I haven't paid myself yet. When I start paying myself, we'll see. I don't know. I hope I can make something good, but yeah, I don't know what that's gonna be. But I think that's competitive. You know, I'm trying to be competitive. I remember when we opened up the first Junes, I was like, I'm going to pay cooks $20 an hour. No, I've never made anything close to that. And by the time we opened, that was kind of the norm. And everyone who worked for me was like, dude, that's not that much money. And I'm like, oh shit. Like the things are inflating quickly. Yeah. So I'm hoping that the skilled pizzaiolo position at $25 an hour plus tips, all shared with just back of the house. There's no front of the house. Like, I hope that person is making between 70 and 80 a year, which I think is pretty competitive for an hourly cooking position.
Yeah,
non-managerial. So, I hope, my fingers are crossed here, and that's absolutely it's important to me. You know, I never forget about that kid who burnt his hand on that cast iron pan, who's so mad at just like questioning what he's doing with his life for someone else, you know. So I'm trying to be there for folks. Yeah.
Well, this looks promising. I'll tell you. I when I walked in, I saw the beautiful yellow, like lemon yellow brick oven. Is there any special like functionality or features to this brick oven that we are going to be enjoying pizzas out of back here?
Yeah, I mean, so the yellow, we tried our best to match the color of our old shipping container that we were operating out of. That would be cool. So our original oven is on the left, and we got a new duplicate oven on the right. We had to encase them in this tile enclosure by health department's requirements. But yeah, that's it. We just wanted to build this big monolith that is so rad to look at that nothing else in this kitchen matters. Like the rest of the fits and finishes in here are just like what we found. Because who cares? It's this sick oven with pizzas flying out of it. Like, it's all people are going to look at. So.
This is really like, that's what we're coming for. You know, of course, getting through like the hurdles of opening weekend and opening months, right, will be one thing. But as this goes on to 6 months and a year, what do you see ahead for June's Pizza? Will there ever be like June's Pasta, June's Pizza and Salad? Like, what do you see this evolving into as time goes on?
Yeah, I mean, all right, so we were talking about marketing a little bit earlier. And I think really hard about branding, what a brand is. And the clearest way it was ever spelled out for me, I watched this talk by a marketer named Seth Godin. I think he's one of those, he's pretty popular, right?
Yes, familiar with him.
Stop me if you've heard this, but he has this bit, he's, all right, let me distill for you what a brand is. He's like, if Nike started a hotel chain, can you kind of imagine what that would look like? Like, and I would say yes. Like, you could think about what the decor would be, what their price point might be, how they would approach the whole game of being a hotel chain. Now, if Hyatt started a shoe company, it's kind of lost. Like, oh, what the heck would a Hyatt shoe look like? And it shows, that displays very easily, like, the strength of Nike's brand versus Hyatt's brand. Nike has put so much work into their brand and what they represent to people that you could just transfer it to things, you know, and it would make sense. So I think about that with June's. You know, we didn't do much marketing, but I did work hard at trying to establish some kind of brand, you know. So let's say we started an olive oil company or anything, just a clothing line, you know. You could say, let's use the word pasta. It's a pasta shop.
Okay.
You could think about what June's pasta would look like. It'd be super high quality handmade pasta. We'd have a really limited menu, just 2 types of pasta a night, limited drink menu as well, but it'd all be fantastic and at a pretty reasonable price point.
Yeah.
And the surroundings would be a little gritty. It wouldn't be chic. It wouldn't be modern.
No checkered tablecloth.
Yeah, no. And it would, I think it would represent West O in that kind of way, like there's an artistic bent to everything we're doing here, and it's a little gritty, but also it's like deeply cultural. And in that way, it's kind of high society, and it's like for us, it's for us to feel cool while eating here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I love it. There's going to be a lot of people looking to feel cool this weekend. I'm sure there'll be lines, down Mandela Parkway. And, to that point, when we think about what the last couple of years in Oakland have looked like, we all know it's been a really challenging time for food businesses here. And I'm sure there are other cities in the Bay that would have loved to have June's Pizza. What do you say to people who might be wondering why you decided to stay in West Oakland?
Man, I've spent so much time here since I moved here. My friends have had businesses around here. I've worked out of here. I live around here. I just see West Oakland as this open landscape to be creative in and have people appreciate it. So West Oakland specifically, it's vibrant and artistic, and there's so many artists around here, and metal workers and woodworkers and sculptors. And even when we were building this space, I was one phone call away from someone down the block to having anything done in here that I needed. And they're oftentimes friends of mine or old customers too. Like any woodwork, any metalwork, any design ideas, there's just people all around here to collaborate with constantly. And I think that's a really special and unique thing. But I just have a lot of resources here. In that, a lot of creative resources. And in that way, I feel pretty at home here. Yeah.
We're glad you decided to stay.
Yeah.
Well, I will wrap us up with one final question. It's been a journey for you. What have you learned from all this?
Humility. Yeah. I think I'm approaching this with more humility and a humbleness that I don't think I had 4 years ago. Because it all just, I thought I was like hot shit, for a quick second there. I'm like, ooh, look at our Instagram, and like we sell out all our pizzas, and then it's just gone, and then all my money was gone, and then I got robbed, and then my truck got stolen, and then now I'm really in debt, and climbing out of that was impossible. And I lived just overdrafting my bank account for like 2.5, 3 years, every month, just like, that moment where you flick open your Wells Fargo app and you're just like, I don't even want to open this thing. It's just that feeling like, ugh. And, I was alone, and like your phone's not ringing when you're down. No one wants you when you're lonely, and just feeling all of that and then slowly climbing out of it. And then people I wrote off in the past or didn't respond to on Instagram turned out to be big fans of June's, and then big investors of June's, and then $200,000 investors of June's. And all of a sudden this place is being created with people I didn't give a second look to before. And all of a sudden I'm like surrounding myself with these folks who just want to see me succeed. And all of this required me to like do away with all preconceived notions of like what I think who I am, and let other people help me. And then when I started hiring talented people, letting them express their ideas in here and not holding on to it, such a death grip. Letting them shine in June's is important. So for all these reasons, I'm kind of rambling, but for all these reasons, I just feel more humble than I ever have been. And I think it's going to be key to the success here, with me stepping aside, letting other people be great here, putting my ego away, letting this business be good.
Yeah.
So.
You mentioned your mom earlier and wanting to say something about her.
Yeah.
The original June.
The OG June. Yeah, I love my mom. She's just this testament to patience and fortitude. And basically her story is she was a nurse and a mother and a wonderful, beautiful woman. When I was 18, she had a stroke, and I really feel like her life was ripped away from her in a lot of ways. And, you know, and I'm not, you know, if you're listening to this, Mom, I mean this and I love you, but I don't believe she's living in a dignified way as a result. You know, it costs a lot of money to when you have as many needs as my mom has to just live day to day. To do it in a dignified way costs a lot of money, and it's not there. You know, she needs a lot of help. And I just told myself, like, I can't keep living like this personally, being this broke. And also I need to help my mom out too. And I need to make a business that can really generate some horsepower, like wealth, if you will, not just for me, but like for everyone who works for me, for the community. And because I need to take my mom out of her situation. So everything I do, I think about that. Like, will this contribute to me, like pulling my mom out of the scene she's in and getting her into a better scene? You know, even down to people who make me angry, like annoying folks on the street or a customer who's like yelling at one of my employees or something. I'm like, the emotional, personal side of me wants to lash out at them, but the part of me that's just thinking about taking care of my mom goes, think about the end goal here. Yeah. Like, it's all about the business. Like, you're trying to build something, like this thing, it's not about your ego. Like, just let all these little annoyances of the day like wash away, because you're just here to build this thing. And it's all just about getting myself in this business to the point where I can, you know, make my life better, make my mom's life better, make everyone who works for me, their lives better. And just, yeah. So,
well, you know, as the old saying goes, if you build it, they will come. And I'm sure they will be coming this weekend. I'm so excited to see what June's 2.0 holds for Oakland. Tell folks where they can find out more information about June's Pizza.
Yeah, first check out our Instagram, Junes_pizza. I think that's it. That's it. There's not a lot of information to know, just our address and our hours. And yeah, walk up and get a pizza. You know, if there's a line to start in these busy opening days, I'm sorry, but come back in a little bit, because hopefully it'll be a little more chill. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah.
And come in positivity, like come in the spirit of community, right? There may be lines, but lines are a good thing. We want to see that in Oakland. We want to see people excited about coming out to support Oakland restaurants and coming out excited to see Oakland restaurateurs who maybe were here and then they weren't and now they're back. So, you know, do like they do in Austin when they line up for barbecue. Come out, get your chairs, you know, bring your drink if you want to, you know, be prepared to kind of stand out and meet and greet, and then come into this space and enjoy some of this amazing pizza. I definitely will pull up here at some point during the weekend. Again, by the time this airs, opening weekend will have already happened, but I will make it my business to come through here at some point this weekend. And I'm really happy to see that this is a thing in Oakland yet again.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, I feel honored to be on the podcast. And
thank you.
Yeah, it's just a pleasure. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Well, if y'all want to find me in between episodes, you can find me on Instagram at Hey K in the Bay. That has been this week's episode. I think the week that this comes out, there's going to be 2 episodes that will be very Oakland centric. So this is number 2 of 2 episodes out this week for Oakland Week at the As Told by podcast. And I will see you all next Tuesday with a new episode. Bye.